During the COVID-19 pandemic, we are locked down in our own residence. I have made one decision that would change my life forever: to pick up the guitar for the first time. I have been mesmerized by the mystical charm of this string instrument, and it had opened my eyes to the melodious aspect of my life that I've never known before. Welcome to my senior thesis presentation. My name is Next Ongarjvaja. My musical passion had led me to the simplest question of any acoustic guitar player: what is a good acoustic guitar? However, its simplicity and the flexibility of definition goodness make this question astonishingly complicated to answer. An inexplicable sound capable of penetrating and reaching even unknown dimensions of oneself is a description used to describe the sound of the guitar. But why is that? Why is it so influential to us, to its listeners? One super scientific logic that I could find is that the guitar mostly produces mid-range frequency, which closely align with human speech processing range of frequencies. This scientific fact is a convincing reason why the guitar is so influential in human society and becomes so popular in our planet. The origin of the guitar is still unclear. The most recognizable evidence is when the parents of the guitar or the lute was brought into Europe 500 years ago. In Europe, it developed its own unique characteristic and turned into the guitar. Since then, the guitar has gained its popularity around the continent of Europe and eventually around the planet. The guitar also plays an important role on our belief, and are mentioned in multiple mythologies. Legend has it that Apollo gave up his entire cattle effortlessly to his Thesis daughter Hermes in an exchange for Hermes' mystical guitar-like instrument. The guitar continually plays a protagonist role in musical scene of this world. Since the COVID-19 first hit in 2019, it is recorded that more than 16 million people in the US alone start picking up the guitar for the first time. And at this moment, the guitar is arguably the most influential instrument on this planet, with the only rival piano. Let me clarify some key concepts about the variation of the modern guitar that we can see in our society today. Firstly is classical guitar. The key feature of classical guitar is that it is equipped with nylon string and usually smaller than other types of guitar. Due to its relatively low tension provided by the nylon string, the classical guitar is not loud enough to fill up the space, and that is exactly when the acoustic guitar is invented. With the larger sound box and the higher tension provided by the steel string, it serves as a major instrument in any performing spaces for centuries. Still, more volume is needed. Therefore, electric guitar that relies on the magnetic pickup avoiding feedback noises from the hollow sound box is invented. It comes into play super handy in the concert in which many sound amplifiers are equipped. My focus today will be mainly on acoustic guitar. However, some topics are relevant to other types of the guitar as well. I shall begin my answer with my interpretation of the definition goodness. In this presentation, I have divided the definition of goodness into three main parts. Firstly, the goodness for guitar itself. Secondly, the goodness for human who are related to the guitar. And thirdly, the goodness for our nature in the big picture. Beginning with the first definition of goodness, the good guitar, for me, should all be good already for itself. The first thing that I began investigating is the quality of the material used to make the guitar. Partly because it's the most tangible factors to study, and partly because it's what most people think of when they're considering buying any product. Overall and sound quality of the guitar is greatly determined by the woods used to make a guitar, especially the body of the guitar. These woods are referred to as tone woods. Tone woods that are used for the top of the guitar are usually softer and more flexible than those used for the back and sides. Because we want the top to be prompted easily to vibrate and transfer the vibration to other parts of the guitar. It is commonly believed that the guitar that is built from a solid, unmodified piece of natural woods is better than those built from engineered wood by any means. However, this statement is not entirely accurate. The solid piece of wood is usually much more expensive and subjectable and super vulnerable to changes, especially humidity. The solid piece of wood had one advantage over engineered wood, which we call sound development, which means it will sound better and better as the time goes on, and is more naturally aesthetic because it's built from the solid, unmodified natural piece of wood. However, while the laminated or layered wood, or we call it engineered wood, lacks sound development, which means it basically sounds the same as long as you own them, it is much more affordable and much more durable. And it also can be equipped with the wood veneer on the thin piece of wood. It can be equipped at the outer layer of the wood to increase its natural aesthetic as well. I also need to mention that not only the quality of the woods used to make the guitar should be considered, the skill and the knowledge of the people who make the guitar, or they are referred to as the luthier, contribute greatly whether or not the guitar gives out an excellent quality as well, which I will talk more about it later on. Apart from the body and its shape, as you can see, there are many parts of the guitar that contribute to the overall goodness of the guitar itself. Let us take a brief look on this part. Firstly, the first part I want to talk about is the saddle and nut. There are only two spots of the guitar that contact directly with the strings, so they affect the sound of the guitar considerably. Moreover, this part also determines what we call the guitar action, which has a lot to do with playability. If the string action is too high, it would be extremely hard for the player to play the guitar. And the second part is the bridge. The bridge is where the saddle and the string are attached to the guitar. It serves as a pathway for the vibration to move on from the strings to an instrument. Therefore, the gluing surface and the bridge must be exceptionally strong. Thirdly is the tuners. The tuners allow the string to be tuned in different notes. The tuners do not affect the sound of the guitar directly, but better tuners provide the player with better tuning stability. And lastly, the last part I want to talk about is the strings. It surprised me at first that many new phase guitar players do not know that they have to change their guitar string periodically. They are the first source of the vibration occurring in the guitar. In quote, a really great guitar with a dead set of strings is going to get passed by, said Andy Power, a master builder of one of the biggest guitar companies in this world, Taylor's. Therefore, it is super important for the player to give the guitar a new set of strings when it needs one. Since we talk a lot about the differences of the materials and differences of the parts and the cost of production, I have two guitars for you today. And I will play each sound sample, and we shall have a look if you can tell the differences of this guitar or not. What do you think? Can I see some hand on what do you think? Or can I see some hand of the people who think the guitar one is better? Some hands. 8. Who think the guitar number 2 is better? So before I show you the prices of this guitar, these two guitars are made from exactly the same species of wood, but with one is all solid, which means it's made from like 100% natural unmodified piece of wood, and one is made from partly from engineered wood or layered type of wood. And these are the prices. So this is not like anything that I want to mention, like the expensive guitar is always better than the cheaper one, because this, like the subject of the sound of the guitar is kind of super subjective. but I just want to give you like an kind of experiment that we'll see what is the quality of the guitar that I will discuss later on too, not just for the prizes. The second definition of goodness that I want to talk about is derived from the perspective of humans who are involved with the guitar. I divide this part of goodness into two topics. Firstly is playability, and the second is purpose. Moving into the playability aspect of the guitar, this topic is unseparately related to both the guitar itself and the people who make the guitar and who play it as well. This topic is when the skill and the knowledge of the luthier or the guitar maker comes to play. Firstly, since the guitar is needed to be played in a standard musical scale, the alignment of the neck and the body of the guitar, including the location of the bridge, which determines the location of the strings, must be perfectly precise to ensure the correctness of music. This requires an extensive experience of the luthier. Secondly, is the fretwork on the neck. The players spend most of their time with the guitar pressing the string against different frets to play different notes. A good guitar should have the fret level and rounded off at the edges so each note will be played correctly and comfortably. Last step of the guitar making process is the setup process. This is a process of adjusting everything about the guitar to make it as appreciable as possible for the player to play. And this process is where the guitar maker's skills is the main characters. The playability of the guitar for me is not limited to the comfort when we play the guitar only, which I already mentioned in the previous slide. The good guitar for me should also be easy to take care of, because almost every part of the guitar are made out of woods, which make it so susceptible to the changing environment, especially the changing humidity. This links closely to the tone woods used to make a guitar. Are they laminated or solid? Which type of the finishing layer was put on the guitar? These are some questions that shall be taken into consideration when we discuss about the quality of the guitar as well. Another topic that's worth mentioning is the aesthetic of the guitar. It cannot be denied that the first impression when people perceive the new guitar for the first time is not its sound, but the look of it. So each player has a distinct image of what a beautiful guitar looks like for them. One gorgeous guitar, in my opinion, for example, might not be as attractive for other people. Is this a common sense among the guitar player that if your guitar is beautiful, or if you see your guitar is beautiful, you're going to pick it up more and play it more, and you can improve more. Comparing to the diverse senses of aesthetic, purpose is even more complicated to clarify. To gain a better understanding of this, I reached out to Mr. David Colburn, an experienced guitar maker that has been involved in the guitar business for more than 50 years. He told me that there's no single best guitar for anybody. All of it comes down to two things: preferences and needs. To understand one purpose, I have to think as if I am that person myself. If I were a beginner who just started playing the guitar, I would love the guitar that is affordable, since I am not sure if the guitar would be the right instrument for me or not. And I would love the guitar that is easy to play, so I can practice joyfully and improve. With the different needs of the performer, I am willing to buy the guitar at a much higher price point, because I know that I can find somebody back with it. Function of the guitar, such as electric pickup, will be another thing to concern in case I want to use that guitar for recording purposes. Though I have been a learner and both a performer myself, I'm still not that specific person, just like any of us. None can ensure what other people truly want. Mr. Colvin said to me that it's the fact that one people can wear multiple hats. So the professional can also be a learner when they practice. The expert on the stage can play the very basic song when they play it in the family gathering. So this subject is truly subjective. As I already mentioned, that the maker is another group of people that are intimately associated with the guitar. The guitar maker community is now divided into two sides. On one is the small-scale guitar maker that usually make custom guitar to order. On another end is the large-scale factory that build more than 100 guitars a day. The common goal for both of them is return and stability. The common goal for any business. Both must attain an adequate return to ensure that their business will continue running and doesn't go bankrupt. However, the approach to their business model is nearly the opposite. The small maker usually offer the customer personal customization that the big factory simply cannot provide. They build their success on the highest satisfaction and reliability from the customer. This advantage allows them to sell their guitar at a much higher price point. However, they can only make a handful of guitars a year. Large-scale maker, on the opposite, focus on the efficiency of the making procedures. In other words, they focus on making the good enough guitar that can be made quickly and efficiently, or in other words, cheaply, while yielding a satisfactory selling amount. So, from my March experience, I decided to put myself into the world of guitar making by enrolling in a 2-week intensive guitar building course offered as a virtual string instrument school of luthiery in Western Massachusetts. And with a kind help about the lodging from the Wiseman through Holderness connection, I got to build my own guitar for the first time, which is here, and answer some questions that I want to answer regarding the guitar industry. The first question is, how hard is it to make the guitar? Building the guitar is not an easy task by any means. Many process has to be done in a very specific way in order to achieve the expected result. Multiple machine tools are used in help doing many tasks along the process, and most importantly, the proficiency of the maker in doing all of these things all these things that I mentioned is crucial. My second question is, how does a small guitar business work? Unlike other well-known occupations like the doctor or the lawyer, the guitar making world does not have any formal accreditation system that certifies you are a good guitar maker. Most of the makers began their career by learning from other experienced makers and relying on the power of mouth to establish their own business. This makes the guitar builder communities really limited to the small group of people and unfriendly for the people who want to join into the community. And the next question is, can the small business compete with the large-scale factories? My answer is obviously not. Because of the economy of scale or the significantly higher cost per production unit, it is nearly impossible for any small builder to compete with a well-equipped large-scale factory that can build guitar at a much lower production cost. So my last question is then, what is the future of the guitar community? For me, the sharp division between these two groups of guitar builders is going to get wider and wider. While the large-scale guitar factory continue to cut down their prices, the small builder will continue to offer a boutique instrument that are tagged as like a super high price point. Because their business model can never rely, the division in the guitar community is still going to get wider and wider. My last interpretation of goodness is about our nature. Undeniably, the guitar industry, along with other wooden instrument industry, is one of the major contributors to deforestation. In the past few decades, while wood resources have becoming more and more scarce, the demand for high-quality wood log to build an instrument is continually increasing. In an attempt to tackle this problem, many alternative materials have been brought up to attention. However, the outcome of these alternatives have not yet been proven. In quote, "We are the first ones that can see the light of the day through the forest. And by the way, the light of the day is a bad thing to see through the forest," said Bob Taylor. Seeking for the highest grade of wood logs, multiple wood species that have been traditionally used to make a guitar are already become endangered. To be more specific, the ideal piece of wood used to build an instrument is just one grade below the wood used to make a load-carrying structure in the aircraft. This has led to a massive illegal deforestation, especially in the region where there is no strict regulation over forest exploitation, such as African countries. Moreover, these illegal actions are often subsidized by any company that are looking for cheap wood resources, to gain more profit from their business. This cycle allows these illegal actions to continue harming the forest. In the Ebony project ran by Taylor Guitar that set up a sustainable approach of wood harvesting in Cameroon, it is mentioned that these illegal harvesters also force local workers to improperly cut down and leave many trees to rot in the forest if they do not meet with the misleading preference of quality wood. Any wood that you have natural discoloration, which does not affect the overall quality of the woods at all, are often left behind because the local worker will not get paid if they bring back these wood that have natural discoloration. So, is it possible for our guitar community to move on from wood? I have to admit that this is not yet possible, not because we have no other options, but because our existing collective idea of what a guitar should look like has been formulated for centuries and unlikely to change in just a few years. With the technological advancement, multiple variations of engineered wood are already adopted and used in some manufacturers to help the manufacturer use their wood resource much more efficiently and providing customers with a much lower price tag. According to the research that I found, many unheard alternative species that can give out very close acoustical properties, just like those conventional wood that have been used for a long time. So they're started to be approved and used in place of some rare species as well. Or even an audio synthetic material like the carbon fiber, just shown in the picture, this now can be seen in the guitar community. Though they lack natural aesthetic of the natural woods or the tonal characteristics that have been long appreciated in the guitar community, they offer a player with a robust durability and a lot of functions. Carbon fiber guitar, unlike its wooden prototype, experience no issue in any extreme environment. Easily endure any temperature from below freezing up to almost boiling point. However, these alternative approaches are now limited to the handful manufacturers only. At this point, I have been trying to formulate my final answer to my question. However, with the subjectiveness of this question as I presented, it's still impeding me from giving you a definite answer of what is a good guitar. The definition of goodness has gone far beyond just for myself. It's also covered the people who listen to my music, those who made my instrument, those who cut down the trees on another continent, and even the planet that I'm standing on right now. I may ask you after my presentation today to take a deeper look of the things that you bought and around you and ask yourself, is it really good for you? And if it's good for you, is it also good for other people as well? Is it good for our communities? Is it good for our environment? Because the very last thing that all of us like to do is unknowingly taking all the goodness for ourselves and leaving all the bads for other people. Thank you. Any questions?
What kinds of wood are you made of?
So, for the guitar that I made, I chose for the top or this, like the front of the guitar, is called it's spruce, Engelmann spruce. So the reason why I chose Engelmann because it's super white, like whiter than other type of the spruces, and it's also very fine grained and soft. So it will make guitar more kind of like warm and loud. And for the side and the back, I chose Indian rosewood, which is like kind of one of the traditional species that has been used in the guitar community for a long time. And for the neck of the guitar, I think we say 90% of the acoustic guitar neck is made by mahogany, because mahogany is kind of flexible enough to use to make a neck, because the neck can be adjusted like back or down or sideways. But it also kind of hard enough to not like bend naturally when the string tension is applied. So that's why a reason why it's good for making a neck.
It's beautiful.
I know this matters in violins, but I don't know with guitars. How much does choosing the varnishes and the stains, or if you probably didn't stain this, but how much does that matter in the sound of the guitar?
I would say like there are a lot of variation of like the finishing layer that can be applied to guitar. I have to admit that I'm not sure, but general idea is that if your finishing layer is too thick, it will dampen the vibration of the guitar. Well, that's why like most of like the manufacturer, when they try to finish the guitar, they will apply the finishing layer and they will sand it down to make it level. and they would put another layer on and then sand it down again to make it level again. This process makes the finishing layer even out all of the throughout the guitar and make it as thin as possible. And for the materials used, I think they're like nitrocellulose. There are some like modern lacquer. Some people say that like the kind of the traditional way of finishing the guitar, or we call it nitrocellulose, is better. But like the word better is kind of subjective, because they say better because it's kind of more clear and like it's super clear. So like the wood grain can be seen easier, but why they're clear, they're much more clear, they're kind of not as durable as like polyurethane or like the modern way of finishing the guitar. So it's kind of in like subjective area. But I would say most of the guitar that you can see today are finished by polyurethane.
I was interested in the two guitar comparison. If someone were going to justify the higher price for guitar number one, can you give us any of the vocabulary used to describe the difference in the sounds? Particularly if maybe some of us didn't hear any difference in the sounds?
So, is it true that different species that used to build the guitar contribute to different tonal characteristics? But this like it's very hard to like differentiate those if you're not like an experienced guitar player. So the thing that I would suggest you look for is called like I think I'm called like a fretwork. Actually, like the thing that separates the guitar, like super expensive guitar or the cheap guitar, is like the attention to details of the making process. So I mean, the fret is like kind of the key actor in the guitar making process. So as you can see, like the string and the fingerboard is just like 2 or 3 millimeters apart. So if just one fret is like off level or is not like level correctly, it will give you like a buzzing sound. I can give you an example. Like normal guitar will sound like this, but if it buzzes, it will sound like. So that is not like the thing that we want in our guitar. So I think the vocabulary that you need to know, that like the thing that you need to consider is the quality of the fretwork and like some wood species. But I think you do not have to know the name of the species actually, because you just want to know what is the sound that you want about the guitar. I recommend trying them before you buy them. And another thing, like the thing to check is all of those details to like the building procedure and like, and most importantly, the fret support.